What if losing control of your own success was the only way to finally rebuild it on your terms? At one point, Kylie Jenner looked untouchable. Her name was everywhere, her brand was unstoppable, and her influence seemed permanent. Then, almost without warning, the narrative cracked. Valuations were questioned. Trust wavered. The cultural mood shifted. And suddenly, the empire that once felt automatic had to be rebuilt deliberately. This is the story people rarely talk about, not the rise, but the recalibration, and how Kylie quietly rebuilt her empire from the ground up. For years, Kylie's success was framed as effortless. One viral moment led to another. One product launch fed the next. But that framing hid a dangerous truth. When success arrived too fast, systems don't always mature with it. Early Kylie Cosmetics thrived on hype, scarcity, and personality-driven momentum. It worked brilliantly in the Instagram era. But markets evolve, audiences mature, and hype eventually demands substance. When the world started asking harder questions, Kylie faced a choice: defend the old narrative or rebuild the foundation entirely. The turning point wasn't a single headline. It was a slow realization that visibility alone no longer guaranteed dominance. Consumer trust had become more discerning. Audiences wanted transparency, quality, and longevity, not just influence. And Kylie understood something crucial before many others did. Empires don't survive on attention forever. They survive on structure. Rebuilding from the ground up meant doing something counterintuitive for someone built by visibility. She stepped back. Less noise, fewer impulsive launches, more control behind the scenes. Instead of chasing constant relevance, she focused on durability. This wasn't retreat, it was repositioning. Because rebuilding isn't about doing more, it's about doing better. One of the smartest moves Kylie made was redefining her relationship with ownership. Early narratives emphasized her as the face of the brand. Later faces emphasized systems, partnerships, and infrastructure. Selling a majority stake wasn't an exit. It was leverage. It allowed her to scale with resources, expertise, and operational discipline that personal branding alone couldn't provide. Real empires aren't built by doing everything yourself. They're built by knowing when to bring in structure stronger than ego. At the same time, she rebuilt trust with consumers by slowing down. Fewer launches meant higher standards, refined formulas, cleaner branding, a shift from trend chasing to consistency. Kylie Cosmetics stopped feeling like a moment and started feeling like a company. That transition matters more than any viral spike, because moments fade, systems endure. Another overlooked aspect of the rebuild was emotional. Kylie didn't just restructure a business. She restructured her identity within it. Early success blurred the line between who she was and what she sold. When criticism hit, it felt personal because it was personal. Rebuilding meant separating self-worth from performance. That distance is essential for longevity. You can't let a company if every metric feels like a judgment of your existence. Have you ever noticed how the strongest leaders become quieter over time? That's not disengagement. That's confidence rooted in clarity. Kylie stopped over-explaining. She stopped defending every narrative. Instead, she let results speak. And that shift signaled maturity to both the market and her audience. Midway through this story, if you're finding value in these behind-the-scenes perspectives on power, rebuilding, and long-term success, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment about what you think is harder, building success quickly or sustaining it over time. The rebuild also involved diversifying her empire. Instead of relying on a single product category or platform, she expanded cautiously. Skincare, collaborations, selective partnerships. Each move was less about domination and more about balance. The goal wasn't to be everywhere, it was to be stable. That's a fundamental shift in mindset, especially for someone who once represented maximal exposure. Culturally, Kylie also adjusted her presence. She moved away from being the symbol of excess and towards something more restrained. This wasn't accidental. Public perception influences brand equity. As audiences grew tired of hyper-curated perfection, Kylie softened her image. Less performance, more grounded energy. Brands don't exist in isolation. They breathe the same cultural air as their consumers. Another critical factor was learning from criticism without being consumed by it. Early in her career, backlash often triggered defensive cycles. During the rebuild, she absorbed feedback selectively. Not all criticism is useful, but some of it reveals structural weaknesses. The difference between collapse and evolution is knowing which signals to listen to. Rebuilding from the ground up also meant accepting that the second chapter wouldn't feel like the first. It wouldn't be as loud. It wouldn't be as instantly celebrated. And that's often where people fail. They chase the feeling of early success instead of committing to sustainable growth. Kylie chose the less glamorous path. Fewer headlines. Stronger footing. What's most impressive about this phase isn't the revenue numbers or brand reach. It's restraint. The discipline to rebuild quietly while the world expects spectacle. The patience to invest in systems that won't trend but will endure. That's the kind of decision-making that separates temporary wins from lasting empires. And this rebuild wasn't about proving critics wrong. It was about proving the future secure. Kylie no longer needed to be the youngest, the loudest, or the most viral. She needed to be stable, adaptable, durable. That's how real power evolves. So when people talk about Kylie Jenner's empire as if it peaked and faded, they're missing the point. What actually happened is more interesting. The empire shed its early skin. It grew muscle instead of glitter. And it learned how to survive in a world that no longer rewards hype alone. Would you have the patience to rebuild something everyone assumes is already finished? Would you step back from visibility to strengthen what people can't see yet? These are uncomfortable choices, but they're the ones that define long-term success. Kylie Jenner rebuilt her empire by understanding that true power isn't proven by constant growth, but by resilience. By knowing when to slow down, when to restructure, when to evolve quietly. And that lesson applies far beyond celebrity. If you've stayed with this story until the end, subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think rebuilding from the ground up requires more strength than building from nothing? And do you believe most people would have the patience to do it?